4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're going to come to you today, as we do every Saturday from 10 till noon, with an exception or two. What I will do today is I will try to shorten my answers so I can get more calls in. So that will be up to you to accept that. It's easy for you. John will take your calls, and John Irvin, welcome, John. Glad to have you. He's a newbie, but he's already gotten in the groove, so I'm really proud of what he's doing, even though he's only been here. This will be his second week. So 888 Car Clinic is a number for you to call, 888-227-2546. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can save big during O'Reilly Auto Parts Power Torque Tools DIY Days sale. Great deals, folks, on socket sets and wrenches and more. If you're a DIYer and you need the right tools, this is your opportunity. You can get a 57-piece quarter-inch drive ratchet, socket, and bit set for just $24.99, plus double O Rewards points means you'll get the next reward even faster. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. And to that end, in our service department, some 48 years, we buy from and install O'Reilly Auto Parts every day for our customers to keep them running well. I'll take your calls when I come back from this commercial break. A 2013 Honda Accord came in the shop running rough, stalling, and a check engine light. The vehicle had originally been repaired by another shop. After a thorough diagnosis, we found the vehicle was generating a bad signal from the crankshaft position sensor. This seemed odd as it had just recently been replaced, but the scope doesn't lie. A bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change, and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% in-line and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at Motorrad.com. All brake parts are not created equal. In the service bay this week, a 2018 Explorer with 65,000 miles. The customer's complaint? Brake pulsation at highway speeds. We performed a road test plus a thorough four-wheel brake inspection using a dial indicator to precisely measure the front rotors. We determined the rotors were warped and had excessive runout. Why? Poorly made replacement parts. This generation Explorer features a heavy-duty brake system designed with large vented rotors. Lots of surface area for proper stopping power. The thinner and lighter weight off-brand rotors installed didn't have enough material to support the brake operation correctly. After consulting with the customer, we installed a set of Motorcraft rotors and pads. We also flushed the brake fluid, and the end result was a vehicle that stopped properly, like the manufacturer intended. Motorcraft parts are specifically designed for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs and are backed by a limited 2-year, unlimited mileage warranty, including labor with no commercial exceptions. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. Learn more about Motorcraft brake parts and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at Motorcraft.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, have happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown. Now you're here. Aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's broadcast. I want to remind you can go to carclinicnetwork.com. That is the name of our network, and it's on our site, carclinicnetwork.com. You can click on Car Clinic Library /podcast. And you can download this podcast. You can also subscribe on iTunes as well, and my program will automatically download so that at your convenience, you may be away from your radio or you may be away from your computer, if that's possible these days, during one Saturday's broadcast. But that's okay, because if you set your subscription on your iTunes, we'll download automatically. And also the Car Clinic Library podcast is easy download for you, so that you can tune in to maybe your question, or maybe you hear the tail end of another answer to another caller's question and you didn't quite understand. That's the good thing about talk radio, is that it's talk radio. You cannot ignore it. You can't play us in the background and work, whereas you can play music in the background and do your thing. But just like a dinner music or breakfast music or whatever, your choice. But with talk radio, you're either in or out. So if you're in today, I invite you to participate. It's really easy. John will take your call at 888-227-2546, and I promise you I'll give you the shortest answer, provided that you understand what I'm sharing with you. Otherwise, when you hang up the phone, you say, "No, what did he say?" It's like going to a doctor. What questions do you ask? Well, you think about it and ask me those questions. And to that end, our first caller is going to be Dean, because he was in early. He has a 1988 Chevrolet S10. Dean, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us.
Thank you very much. Calling from Lakeland, Florida, right in the middle of the state.
Cool.
I do have relatives in Pensacola. In fact, my great aunt owned an iconic breakfast and lunch restaurant there. You said 48 years in business. You probably remember Steele's Country Kitchen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was on Balin Street. It was on
Route 29 North. I looked the sign up because it had a concrete chicken out front. So.
Well, I just, that's
in the
amazing.
Library of Congress, picture of that. So,
really?
Anyway. On to my question.
Okay.
88 S10 Blazer, 4.3 liter. When you go out in the morning cold, crank it.
Right.
Starts off with an elevated idle, and in 5 to 10 seconds it idles down into normal idle. It's no longer idling down to normal idle. It stays elevated.
Okay.
I need an avenue to pursue to find out what's going on.
Okay, so am I then to take it that even after it gets thoroughly warmed, it's always idling fast?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are two possibilities. There's many possibilities, but there are two that hits my hot button, and there's an IAC, idle air controller. And the idle air controller is a throttle bypass that allows air to get into the engine to make it idle faster, even though the throttle is closed. And that IAC, or idle air controller, may be stuck, or it may be otherwise defective. If it's defective and it's in the open position, which if you turn the key off, it automatically goes to open. So it would be one of those components that defaults to open, which means if it broke or it was bad, and it could not be activated and controlled by the onboard computer, then it would idle fast, and it would never respond to the computer saying, "Hey, slow down, slow down." So the first thing to do is, and then the second idea would be, our problem would be false air, and false air means you got a vacuum leak. So if you had a brake booster that was bad, or the hose going to the brake booster, or even a PCV hose that runs alongside the top of the engine, and you look at the hose, you say, "It looks good to me," but like a snake, if you feel the underside of the belly of the hose, a lot of times they're cracked and they pull in, and they'll look round from the top, but the length of the hose will have a linear crack, and this linear crack will allow it to be sucked in and cracked, and that will feed false air to the engine. So the bottom line is, and you could take something like a carburetor.
Well, I can tell you it's not the last one, because I replaced the PCV valve and that hose about 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So they're brand new, unless that hose has come off, which I'll double check.
Well, do double check that, and I don't know. You'd know, because if you replace the hose in a PCV and you've had this problem ever since, did you have this problem before?
No, it came up afterward, about 3-4 weeks later.
Okay. Well, go back and check your work and unplug that hose from both ends and look at it, but don't just reach and snatch it off. Kind of tug it and see if it's partially installed, and those are the two. Remember, if the throttle is not open, the engine is going to idle at a predetermined speed. So it either has to be the idle air controller or a vacuum leak, and that hose is a candidate. So I think that I'm glad you called. I think you're on the right track.
The IAC, is that an electronic module?
Yeah, it's on the throttle body, and it directs false air. It directs air around the throttle body like a tracheotomy would go around your mouth. Well, that's the same thing that an idle air controller, and you can buy those at any parts store.
And is that a DIY situation?
It is. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's a DIY, because in the final analysis you could use any flammable liquid like brake parts cleaner or what have you, and spray around the engine. And if you can affect the running of the engine by inducing some spray, even hairspray, which you wouldn't use, but if that's all you had, then you know that, wait a minute, if I'm not putting this spray into the air box or the air filter and it affects the way the engine running, it must be going through wherever I'm spraying it. You got it?
And you say if it's bad, that means it's stuck in an open position, letting all that air in.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Good deal.
Thanks, Dean. Oh, by the way, one question before I let you go. Are you still having the car show on the lake every year? Are you familiar with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, give us a call during that.
It's down. It happens downtown. Yeah. That'll be coming up here in the next month or two, I think.
Well, call me and we'll talk about it.
I think it happens in May.
Okay. Well,
first weekend in May, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Sounds good. I love to hear from you during this car show. Thanks, Dean.
All right, bye.
Missouri, we'll go to Fred. And, folks, now's the time for you to get in at 888-227-2546. Fred from Missouri, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Cleaning. Thank you for holding.
Well, good morning, Bobby. Glad to talk to you again.
Thank you. Again.
Hey, again, I've called in a couple of cars. This time it's on a 2014 Jeep Patriot that I have just recently purchased. And, of course, as any new car that you buy, the wife gets it. She's been driving it and says she drives only about 3 miles each way to work.
Okay.
And it appears to her that when she leaves work after it's been sitting 5-6 hours and cold, that even after traveling maybe a mile, couple minutes at most, the temperature gauge indicates from cold to running temperature very quickly. And she's concerned there may be an issue with the cooling system. Do you know of anything that might cause it? Is it a better thermostat? Is it operating properly? I've actually been driving it for about half an hour this morning around town, different speeds, and my impression is that there's nothing wrong with it. But I don't know if there's something that could be causing a quick increase in the temperature indicator. May not be an issue, may just be an indicator. What's your thought?
My thoughts is not an issue at all. The first traffic light that I come to from my house in the morning is 1.1 miles from my house. And by the time I get to that traffic light, I crank my car, and it idles fast, and then I wait until the oil circulates and I put my windows up, which takes about I'd say 18, 20 seconds. And then no longer than a minute, and usually less than a minute, I will back out of the driveway. By that time, the engine has reduced its morning fast idle speed to the normal speed, and that gives the time the engine oil. And really, I'm not concerned about my engine warming up. I want to make sure that the oil is flowing, and that's why we use 5W20 oil, because it flows more quickly and synthetic. I said all that to say that by the time I reach that traffic light to either stop or it's green, my engine is about 75% to its normal operating temperature. The faster, in fact, it's designed that way. The faster an engine can come up to operating temperature, the less wear overall in its lifetime. So engine operating temperature, let's say 200, is the optimum. The faster you can get an engine to operating temperature, the better. So, Fred, she does not have a problem. The problem would be if it took too long, 5 or 10 miles to warm up. So, enjoy the Jeep. You don't have a problem. And, folks, I'll be back. Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Using a combination of stronger solvents, HEST technology helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Billy tried Berryman B12 Chem Tool in his mother's 2005 Altima. The vehicle was misfiring, throwing off codes, and running poorly. After using B12 Chem Tool, no more misfires and no more trouble codes. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other great products at berrymanproducts.com. You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise and Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at Motorrad.com. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Folks, this week we had an 04 Lexus RX 330 with 170,000 miles in the shop with power steering and cooling system issues. Close inspection found a leaking hose, but the cooling system had multiple issues. Leaking radiator, both upper and lower hoses cracking, and a cooling system badly corroded. We called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered a new radiator, power steering hose, and thermostat. We always replace a thermostat whenever we're repairing a cooling system to ensure the engine's temperature is properly controlled. What our service team really appreciates about the O'Reilly Auto Parts team is they group all of our parts in one batch and deliver them on time. This may seem like a small thing to do, but it helps our technicians complete the job correctly and on time, first time. We also flush the entire cooling system to protect the new radiator and restore life to this older Lexus. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100.
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment. As I said when I opened the program, we'll take more calls today, and I will share information and help you to the extent of my knowledge. And together we can figure out for you a next best step. If you've got an issue with your vehicle, you've got a problem, then I await your call at 888-227-2546. And I'll remind you that this program is available for podcast at carclinicnetwork.com. Just go to Car Clinic Library /podcast, or, of course, iTunes as well. You can subscribe and automatically download. So we've had a couple of interesting calls. I want to share with you an interesting story that happened recently in our service department that actually the local dealer repaired. And you say, well, wait a minute, you're an independent service. We are an independent service provider. But Dr. Charles brought his Subaru in. Had 37,000 miles on it, and it's a 2016 Outback. And the problem that he was having, and he bought this car specifically because it had in the windshield this warning system where he had lane warning and sort of a self-steering, so it would help him because of his age. He felt that he would be a safer driver, and I agree. With the new technologies that are being installed on cars these days, they make us all a safer driver. Well, this particular issue was a warning light on the dash. And the warning light, although the car did not have any trouble codes in the car, it had a warning light about a blind spot problem. So ultimately, rather than to spend a lot of his money chasing a problem that we actually didn't know where to go because it didn't have any hard evidence, he goes to the dealer. And as it turns out, and this is really ironic, folks, he had backed in, or someone had backed into him on the rear fender of this Outback and dented it. But it did not break the paint, and it was not really an issue. But his son, or a relative, got under the vehicle and knocked the fender back out. So the fender was as new. You could not really look at it, and it's something that we really wouldn't get into anyway. But when that fender bender, albeit not a serious issue, happened, it damaged the bracket and the radar that was located underneath that fender. And so the dealer inspected it, and then and also I think there was a recall of some kind, or a TSB of some nature relative to that system. But what they put was they installed a new bracket, which is like $6.50, that holds the radar unit, and then they put a new radar assembly that was about $450 for the unit itself, and that fixed the automobile. So I want to thank Dr. Charles for sharing this information with you, and also hats off to Anderson Subaru right here in Pensacola for taking care of Dr. Charles. He's a longtime customer of ours, and a gentleman, and he's a very straightforward individual. He doesn't beat around the bush. So if he's the kind of person that we really like to deal with, because he says, look, I come to you, or whatever, I'll go by whatever guideline you say, but I want my car to be as new. So it's great to have customers like that. And if you're of that mindset, then you need to establish a relationship with a local automotive service provider that you trust, so that you can take your car in and you leave it for service. You don't have to worry about whether or not they've got your interest at heart, not just taking money out of your wallet. Let's go to Sharon, who has a 2013 Ford F-150. Again, I'll give you the number to call. John will take your calls at 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Sharon, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Thank you.
What can I do for you?
Yeah, I had a radiator and a fan assembly replaced.
Okay.
And ever since I got it back from the mechanic, the engine keeps racing whenever it's idling. It'll race for 5 or 10 seconds and then idle normal.
Okay.
And start racing again, and it does that on and off. And somebody told me that's normal for F-150s, but we've had several, and none of the others have ever done it.
Well, to say that, I think that what they're not doing is they're not listening to you, because every engine and even the most sophisticated engines, and even older engines, when they're cold, they idle fast because there's extra friction and the oil is thicker, and you have to have the engine race up because it's not adjusted yet and it's not up to its normal operating temperature. So when you first fire the truck up in the morning, that's normal. But it is not normal for that to happen except one time a day. Unless you drove the vehicle to work, say 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you go out at noon and the temperature outside is cold, then 4 hours, yeah, it's had time to cool off again. But Sharon, so I think that the folks that are giving you their opinion, saying, well, it's okay. Well, yeah, it is okay if you had parked it long enough for what's called not an overnight stand, but a length of time parked, so the engine would cool off again, and then the engine automatically would race up. But if you drive the vehicle in the morning and you put 5 miles on it, I'm just picking a figure here, and then you and it's operating normally, and you go into a service station and get gas, and you get back in the car, and you've been out of the car for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it should not idle fast. That should be. Now, having said that, and I don't want to get too technical here, but I want you to understand, every vehicle these days that's made, including your 13 F-150, has an immediate idle up, and then when you first fire the engine, even if it's normal operating temperature, not like it does when it's cold, which would be like 1,500, but it would be like 1,000 or 1,100 RPM, and then the minute that it's happy, which is like I don't know. 2, 3, 4 seconds, it would come down and seek its own level, and to that end, you can watch. And folks, this is a little a quick lesson for you and a quick to do. With an engine that's at normal operating temperature, for those of you who have a car that has a tachometer, a visual tachometer, you turn the air conditioner on, put the car in gear, turn the air conditioner on, turn the headlights on, and turn the defroster on. So now you've got the engine loaded because it's in gear, it's automatic transmission, and it's idling under duress a little bit because it has to turn the converter, and the alternator is trying to charge the battery because you've got the headlights on and you've got the air conditioner on because the compressor takes horsepower. You look at the tachometer, every time you load the engine, this is standing still in your driveway, you watch the tachometer, and every time you load the engine with an accessory or another electrical draw or put it in gear, the engine RPM will dip. But the minute it dips, like, let's say it dips from 900 to 600, you'll notice it comes right back up. It's like, well, wow. So once it comes up, that means that the computer has recognized the load and recognized the RPM, because all of the computers have a built-in tachometer, an engine rev counter, and then the engine will say, okay, it's under a load, but this is too low, and it will bring the RPM back up. Now let's say that the engine is happy and it's idling at 900 RPM, which is about right, in gear with the air conditioner on, the headlights on. Well, let me tell you something. If you had 3 hands and you could knock it out of gear, push the headlights off and turn the air conditioner off, it'd go whoom. It would speed up because all that load is gone, and then the engine's computer would say, hey, wait a minute, we don't have that load anymore. Let's pull it back down. So some fluctuation is normal. I want you to know that. And in fact, when we tune an engine, and I hesitate to use the word tune, but when we perform an induction system service or an oil service on an engine, we always look at the tachometer to watch the engine elevate and then come back down, elevate and then come back down. So having said all that, if you have driven this vehicle for a long period of time and it's doing something that it did not do before, then it does have a problem. So can you tell me that it's doing something now that it never did before?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, then what you need to do is have you taken it into a shop?
Not as of yet. I just got it back just recently.
You got it back? You loaned it out?
No, I just got it back from the mechanic from getting the radiator and the fan assembly replaced.
Oh, and this happened afterwards?
Right.
Well, I would definitely go back, and here's what I would do. Will this happen if the engine is warm?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's not right. And so what might need to be done is there's a let's see. Okay, if you can remember this, there's an idle relearn, and an idle relearn is a computer controlled scan induced reprogramming, and it's not expensive and it's easy to do, and it doesn't normally need that's not a procedure that needs to happen or be performed after a cooling system repair. But if the battery were disconnected during the repair, which is entirely possible, then the computer would have to take time to relearn, or to make it easier, there's a synchronization relearn for a camshaft timing and what have you. So just remember that what I would do is share with your shop what this vehicle is doing since they worked on it, and ask them if they would perform an idle relearn on your engine, and then that would reset the parameters for idle control on your engine, and that would at least get that out of the way, and they should do that for you. I'm going to go out on a limb for no charge because you're their customer. You got it? Do you know what to ask for now? Idle relearn.
Right. I will do that.
Okay. Well, I sure am glad that you called, Sharon, and you let me know how this works out for you. And just understand, if the car's doing something that you know that didn't do before, you don't have to be a mechanic to know that. You have to be a technician to fix it. But, you know, we all know what our cars do, and we all drive them. And if the car's wobbling or making noises or the window doesn't work, I mean, if something happens to it, you can smell it, you can feel it, you can hear it. Use your senses, and so don't let anybody, including anyone in my profession, in the automotive service industry, tell you, oh, that's okay, it's normal, because it ain't normal. Hey, Sharon, thank you so much. We're going to take a short break and come back to your calls at 888-227-2546. Just call, and John will take your call. With 48 years' experience in automotive repair, our service team knows what dirty gasoline does inside an engine. Over time and miles, fuel residue and hot oil vapors create nasty, hardened clusters of carbon that block airflow into cylinders, collect on valves, and build up inside combustion chambers, causing hard starting, rough idle, sluggish engine performance, and bad gas mileage. Solution? Berryman B60 High Mileage Fuel System Rejuvenator. B60 cleans the entire fuel system of all high-mileage gas-powered vehicles with powerful detergents and HEST solvents. That's high-energy solvent technology at work. B60 gives you one-tank cleanup of fuel injectors, intake valves, and combustion chambers. Restore lost power, reduce rough idle, improve fuel economy, and enjoy your drive again. Berryman B60 High-Mileage Fuel System Rejuvenator is the only fuel system cleaner with HEST solvents. Pick up a can at your local auto parts store today. For more, visit BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but morning's knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Just remember, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we come to you live from the center of the automotive universe, which happens to be the Car Clinic studios that were designed by our team, yours truly and our team, and manufactured by Acoustic Systems in Austin, Texas, the same company that designed and converted a brewery in D.C. To XM Satellite Radio headquarters. So it's really a nice studio. It's a perfect place to be, should we ever have, and I hope we do not, an Ivan or another hurricane, because the studio floor weighs some 10,000 pounds, and it's isolated, and it is off grade. So the floor that I'm sitting on right now doesn't touch the floor underneath. It only sits on special rubber isolators. And all that said, it's a nice quiet place for me to work, if you can call this work, but for us to bring to you every Saturday, I'm talking about our team, John and Jonathan and Fabio, to name a few, that are currently in the house and controlling all the uplinks to the satellite. And we actually come to you through Westwood One in Denver, and that team out there has taken over from the studios that were in New York, and they've just done an excellent job. So hats off to the technical team for Westwood One at the Denver facility, because through them, from here in Pensacola, Florida, we are placed on the satellite, and then our radio affiliates across the nation pull us down from the satellite. We also are available for podcast through iTunes and other outlets as well. And we recently as this week, have expanded, and you'll be hearing about other venues where you can pull this program down so that at your convenience, you can get the information that you need. Let's talk a minute, and I'll invite you to call. John will take your call at 888-227-2546. But first, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by Grundy Insurance. Grundy's Motor Vehicle Program, or MVP, makes it possible to combine all of your vehicles on one policy and insure them all at the agreed value. You can drive to Grundy.com for more information. Having said that, I have and I own and I covet, what does that mean? Well, it means that I really enjoy owning a classic 1980 V-Stock or Y-Stock Porsche. 408 were imported in 1980. I own, and 200 of those, 204 were Palomino tan metallic, and the other 200 were Schwartz metallic, which is a really deep, dark anthracite, high metallic, beautiful color, which is mine. So I have one of those vehicles, and it's a classic car that's worth a lot of money, and every year the value of that car has risen. In fact, in the last 5 years, that value has probably increased by, I'm probably going to say 75%. So it's incumbent upon me to keep that car looking as new, and I do. So when I share information with you about new cars, because that's what we actually discuss here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, I also am very familiar with older cars, Number one, I've been in this industry for a long time. Number two, I enjoy just the raw sound of a standard 5-speed Porsche air-cooled engine. There's nothing quite like that. And Ferdinand Porsche sure did a whale of a job when he designed that. And also he designed the Volkswagen too. You know, that you may or may not know that. So the types of cars that Grundy covers, and most types of cars 25 years old and older, they also insure modern muscle cars and exotics of all years, and modified vehicles are also included. And what I really appreciate about Grundy, you know, how do you put a price on what your car is worth? Because that's what I battle with, you know, myself every day. We all think that what we own or our cars or our homes are worth more than what maybe the industry will pay, or what the industry would appraise. But it's easy with Grundy. You just tell them what you believe the value to be. You send them a few photos of your car, and their experts will consult with you to reach an agreed value. And once determined, that agreed value will never be reduced unless you want it to be. So that's a huge plus. It's an opportunity for you. And so how do you know if you got a classic car? Go to Grundy.com and get the information there. And you know, if your car's X amount of years old and what have you, but really, is it a classic? Well, it might be. And what's it worth? Well, you don't know. So go to Grundy.com for all the information. I'm going to take a call now from New York, and I'm going to invite you to participate in this segment by simply calling John, or us, or me, through John, John Irvin, doing a great job, at 888-227-2546. Meanwhile, we'll go to New York. Al, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and thank you for holding.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi, sir.
I enjoy your program so much. It's really good. I got a 95 Chevy Silverado step side. When I bought the truck, the check engine light was on, so I had it scanned. The mechanic said put a cap and rotor on it, put plugs in and wires on it. Now, it had the misfire on 7. After I put the cap, the rotor, the wires, and the plugs in, it jumped to number 8. And now the light's flickering. What could it be? Could it be the distributor, or what could it be?
I would say that, number one, here's what we know. We know that you had a number 7 misfire, and then we know that you went in and went into the distributor, and what did you put in the distributor?
I put the cap, the rotor inside the distributor, and plugs and wires.
Okay.
And now it's stuck on. Now it's the misfire comes up on 8.
Okay, so
here's
what I would do. More than likely, someone cracked a porcelain on the plug installing the plug, and I've seen that happen. And in fact, my nephew did that on his vehicle. It came in for a transmission, and it had a misfire. So as a courtesy, we checked the engine, and sure enough, he had cracked, in a brand new plug, he had cracked the porcelain, and it would misfire pretty badly. So here's what I would do. You know that you had a number 7, so you fixed it. But in the meantime, now you've got a number 8. So forget that you did anything except go back and recheck all of your work. And here's an easy way to do that. What I would do is I would check number 8 wire and plug. That's the first thing. Have you done that?
Yes.
And okay.
There's fire coming out of the wire. You know how you stick a screwdriver in there with a rubber handle, and you put it against the manifold, and you can see the spark jumping?
Right.
And then what I did, just to double check myself, I put one of the old spark plugs back in the wire and held it with a pair of pliers against the intake, and I had a nice weak spark.
A week? You said a week. Well, here's what I would do. You put a new cap and rotor. What I would do, have you removed the new cap and looked inside for any kind of tracer or any kind of damage? It's possible you have done that.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
So we know we have a healthy rotor and cap now, right?
Right.
Okay. I mean, the rotors. Did you replace the rotor as well?
Yep.
Okay. So now we know that we got a rotor and cap. We know we got one number 8 cylinder that's okay, that's misfiring, whereas before we had a number 7. And you know that the spark plug is okay because you've unplugged it and you do have fire. I think the easiest thing for you to do is put one of the old wires, if you still have it, where number 8 wire is, or at least pull number 8 wire out of the cap and look at the end of the wire and look down in the cap and make sure that the end of the wire hasn't been damaged or was never properly assembled. It could be that, and it's hard to think you have a bad wire, but let me say this. When you disconnect a wire and then you hold it, near a screwdriver so that it can, and it can jump to the screwdriver, that doesn't mean that it's healthy. It means that the voltage that is required to jump a big gap, like a quarter-inch gap, is there, but it doesn't mean that same voltage will get to inside the cylinder and make the cylinder run. And here's the difference: inside the cylinder, there's pressure. So the spark plug only has a 50 thousandths gap on average, 40 to 50 thousandths gap, or 30, but it doesn't matter. It's still less than 60 or 70 thousandths. But you have to have, so you say, well, wait a minute, it'll jump a quarter-inch gap outside the cylinder. That doesn't mean it will do that inside the cylinder. It might find a least path of resistance, so it might be arcing somewhere else. Here's another thing you can do, Al. You can take Windex. I know you got Windex in the house, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, just take Windex and with a vehicle idling at operating temperature, put it in drive, make sure someone's stepping on the brake and just let it be idling in gear. Take that Windex and spray that cap and just all around the cap and the wires. And if you can cause or cripple or create another misfire, then you've got leaking voltage or pathways for voltage to travel. So that's what I would do. And then last but not least, I would check for any vacuum hose. It's possible that there's a vacuum hose that was attached to number 8 intake port runner, and you have a vacuum leak on intake 8, and you're not getting fuel in that number 8 cylinder. You see where I'm going?
Yep.
So what do you do at that case? Well, number one, you take some material like brake clean or something like that, or carburetor cleaner, and you spray around. I would do the Windex first, and then because it'll dry and go away, don't worry about it. You can't hurt anything with Windex. Just wait for it to dry. And in other words, if you can affect the way the engine runs by spraying Windex, fix that whatever it cripples, because that's could cause your problem. All you're doing is you're making it easier for voltage to escape where it shouldn't, and that's through insulation and through rubber connectors and through the wiring sleeve that's coated each spark plug wire. So once you do that test and you get no positive results or no results, then you can take some. Even as I said earlier, even hairspray, and you can spritz that around number 8 cylinder, around the intake gasket, around the throttle body, and if all of a sudden the engine starts to increase in RPM, or that 8 cylinder starts to hit, and instead of misfiring, then you found the vacuum leak that I'm referring to. You got it?
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you very much. You have a nice day.
Thank you, Al.
I really enjoy your program.
Well, I want to tell you something before I let you go. I really appreciate that, because I had a complaint last week and it bothers me, and just about the fact that sometimes we ramble on and try to overthink items and what have you. And so I'm glad to hear that there are those of you out there who enjoy this program, because I could retire which was suggested, I could retire today because I'm in a position that I can do that. But I choose to be here because I enjoy sharing information, and I don't have my hand in anybody's pocket. I give you that information to the best of my ability. We do have sponsors, and we do promote those sponsors, which keep us on air because of the cost of having a crew. But yours truly is not getting a check here. I do this because I want to do it. So your words of encouragement and your grateful comments are most appreciated. And I hope that the other individual that sent me that nasty letter heard exactly what I have to say. So, Al, hats off to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, how I got this far on this Chevy truck is listening to your show every Saturday.
Well, how cool is that? Hey, thank you, my friend. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you, buddy. Don't
Bye.
go off the air, because if you do, I'm not listening no more.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, buddy.
All right. Take care, Al.
Yep.
So that's really great. They're really interesting. The hidden cost of safety features. You ever thought about that? I'm gonna wait till next hour because we're a time constrained now. But my good friend Dr. Charles sent me, along with his Subaru update of what the dealer found to be wrong with it, the hidden cost of safety features, and it's about front bumpers, headlights, and tail lights, and mirrors, and originates from Consumer Reports in the March 2020 edition, which he obviously gets early because I've had this document for a couple of 3 weeks now. But it's really amazing, like headlights. They're $750 to $1,500 for the LED assemblies. Now that doesn't surprise me because I was at brunch on one Sunday and somebody hit the front of my car. Didn't damage the car, but it did crack the lens, and the headlight assembly was $1,970. Unbelievable. Had to be done. And there's more Bobby Likis Car Clinic coming up next hour at 6 minutes afterwards. Thank you. I'm Bobby Likis, your host. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes in a repair shop beyond diagnosing cars. Sometimes technicians get caught up in a repair that just keeps needing more. Recently, an 05 Saturn came in the shop. A 15-year-old car, 150,000 miles. Our young customer was dealing with a coolant leak, a slow, steady drip on the engine area on the driver's side. After a cooling system pressure test, we determined the lower radiator hose was leaking. We replaced the lower hose, topped off the system, and parked the vehicle. All good. Upon prepping for pickup the next day, you can imagine our disappointment to see coolant leaking from the right side of the radiator. A $500 repair. Our solution? A bottle of K-Seal, which can cost under $20. K-Seal features ceramic technology and is designed to repair leaks without clogging. One bottle completely solved the problem, sealed the leak within 10 minutes. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like Napa Auto Parts. So when you have a cooling system that has a leak, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. For more information, go to kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special welcome to today's edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We already have the first hour in the books, and now this is our second hour of the day. Every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we come to you, maybe not both hours in your neck of the woods, but right here from the center of the automotive universe. And you can go to carclinicnetwork.com, and you can click on Car Clinic Library /podcast. And you download this program, or you can subscribe on iTunes, and you can listen to it whenever you please. And what's really neat about that is sometimes you don't hear the answer completely, or you heard what you thought you heard, but you weren't sure, and so you need to go back, and you can always, rewind the program, which I don't know what that sounds like, but I can try, but I'm not gonna. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by Motorrad, now offering an extensive line of advanced engine management products, including cam and crank sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow or MAF sensors, and VVT solenoid. What's a VVT solenoid? Variable valve timing, very critical piece of electronic. It's an electronically controlled solenoid that controls oil flow that advances and or retards camshafts for performance. Important in new cars. For more information, drive over to motorrad.com. That's motorrad.com, and I'll be back to take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
O'Reilly. It's O-Rewards Bonus Points Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Earn double points on all sale items like wiper blades, motor oil, tools, and more. Are your wiper blades streaking, shattering, or skipping? Save $8 per pair on Bosch Icon wiper blades, plus earn double O-Rewards points. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise in Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at motorrad.com.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
I want to welcome you to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and what we will do this hour is we will share with you information about not only what I think you can do to repair your car, although I'm not here to repair your automobile. I'm here to provide for you buzzwords that makes it easier for you to communicate on a local level with your service shop, because the cars are so sophisticated these days, and have been for many years now, that to do it yourself, you have to limit your actions if you're a DIYer. But there's still a lot that you can do. But even if you don't care about cars and you just want to drive them, you need to make it a point to tune in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, because you can learn more about the nature of the vehicle that you drive. So I will invite you to participate, of course, because this is a caller-driven show. I also want to take this opportunity, before we get too deeply into today's broadcast, to thank our sponsors. I know that commercials are commercials, and you may or may not like to hear commercials, but I will share this with you. There are no sponsors on this program that I endorse and offer their products and encourage you to use their products that we don't use in our shop. So it's kind of, for me, easy, and for some people it's not understandable. But anyway, having said that, I'm ready for your calls at 888-227-2546. We'll take a call from Arkansas. Quentin, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding. You're first in, so you're first on air.
Hey, how's it going?
Just great. How about yourself, man?
Oh, pretty good. Hey, I've got an 05 F-250 with a 6.0 in it. And I got a couple questions. I had an ABS module short out, and when it shorted out, my scanner wouldn't hook up to the truck, and the truck wouldn't crank over. Now, once I unplugged it, I could, hook back up to the PCM, and it would crank. I still have a nose guard issue. So I was wondering, will they run without an ABS module plugged in?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just say this. And it's a lot of times it's beyond me, even as much as I think I know about cars these days and the experience in the 48 years in the industry. Most vehicles have what's called a limp home mode. And limp home means that, hey, if you're out in the woods hunting and you hurt your leg, you will be limping home, but you won't be at regular speed. Well, that's exactly why they use that term, they being the OEMs, a limp home mode. So whenever a part or a module or some electronic widget, and there are 25 black boxes on average on cars these days, whenever any one of those has an issue, whether it's shorted or one of the systems that it operates is short, like the body control module. Body control module controls interior lights and windows and power seats, and just a plethora, a whole group of functions. But that body control module can be disconnected or just totally wiped out, and the car will still crank and run because it has what's called, have you ever booted, Quentin, a computer into safe mode?
Yes.
That's exactly what limp home mode is. Safe mode means, hey, nothing works in this car, but I'm going to get you off this bridge because it's dangerous. And I will tell you, it's beyond me. And sometimes a fuse will blow that powers an ECM, electronic control module, in the vehicle won't crank and run. But rarely will you be riding down the road and have the car quit on you even with a bad fuel pump, because once a fuel pump's up and running, it's easier to keep something up and running than it is to start it from scratch. So most of the time, like timing belt issues or fuel pumps or other electronically controlled components, to get them going in the morning or going when you first fire the engine is when they most likely fail, because they're going from static to movement, and that takes a surge, and sometimes those systems are not correct. So it is okay for you to limp home or limp to a shop and take care of your ABS module. And I got to tell you, Quentin, you can go online, and there's a company online that repairs ABS modules. And the name of that, are you interested in that?
Well, I think I've got one found on eBay that I was going to get. But I got one more question about it.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you ever seen a pickup that was bad, still have voltage, and clatter the injector, key on, engine off?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so my pickup, I got plenty of voltage, it's sinking, and it clatters my injectors when I turn the key on.
Right.
But I'm thinking the pickup may be bad. Have you ever seen one do all that and still be bad?
Well, usually the ignition triggers. Here's the way the sequence works. Voltage battery, to ignition. Ignition goes to the crank mode. In the crank mode, which means in that mode, as long as, let's say you're completely out of gas and you turn the key on to the crank mode, you go until you burn the battery up or burn the starter up. So that's called the crank mode. Run is when your engine fires off. So in the crank mode, power is sent to the fuel pump, bypassing the relay or the computer. It's sent directly to the fuel pump to prime the pump and during the cranking mode. And also, if you were out of gas, the engine wouldn't start. So you got to have voltage to make the pump run, even though the engine is not running. Now, when you turn the key loose and the engine doesn't run, that voltage quits going to the pump, because otherwise you could have a fire or other problems. So the answer to your question, there's no definitive answer to your question, except to say that you have to have voltage, you have to have the crank position sensor sending the signal to the ECM that the engine is turning over. So those two things are a must, or it ain't going to start. You got to have a starter motor and a crank. You got to have fuel pressure and fuel pump run, and you got to, that all is instigated or created or initiated. Initiated is the word, by the crank position sensor. The injectors also won't fire if the crank position sensor is not sending a signal, because it doesn't know the engine's turning over. You see where I'm going there? So it's not there's no single answer that could answer your question. But why do you ask that question?
Because what I did is I pulled this motor out and put head studs and gaskets, put the motor back in it, and I got it all back together. And I put a new crankshaft sensor, cam sensor, found a few shorts in the wiring harness, and I tested the oiling system. They don't have any oil leaks at all. And so I'm kind of thinking, I got a PCM ordered for it. I'm thinking it's either the PCM or the victim. And I didn't know about the ABS module keeping it running or not.
No, the ABS wouldn't do that. So here's what I would do if I were you. I would go back and check for grounds on the back of the block and in the front of the block. Okay. I would check my engine grounds. That's what I would do first before I would go any further. And you may have, it's possible you could have damaged the PCM, very, very much so. But I hate to see you throw parts on it, but, and again, I'd rather send my ABS, in the first place, don't replace the ABS module till you get the engine running and get through with that, because the ABS module could be okay. And you mentioned you had a couple of shorts in the system, I guess where you damaged wires or wires were damaged or old or what have you. So you've got your work cut out for you for sure. Just take it one step at a time. Okay, Quentin?
All right. Well, I sure appreciate
I appreciate it. You're welcome. Thank you. We'll go from Arkansas to New York, and I will invite you to participate at 888-227-2546. Stephen, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
First, I want to say I want to thank you for everything you do. You do a good service.
I really appreciate your comments. I thank you for your comments. If you heard me mention, or you may not heard me mention, I had a complaint. No, I don't know why I should let one complaint bother me. I had someone to say, well, maybe it's time for you to retire. So today I'm going to include more callers in the program. But I'll tell you something. It's such a pleasure when I get individuals such as yourself, Stephen, from New York, to say thank you for the services you bring, because number one, I don't get paid to do this program. My team does, and I pay the lights, but I do this because I like it, and I'm in a position that I can retire, and it was suggested to me. So when I hear comments from people like you that appreciate what information, where else are you going to go to get this free of charge? And we are caller driven. Hey, we've got a break coming up, speaking of consumers and commercials. Don't go away. Being car care aware is important all year round, but winter is an especially critical time as harsher conditions can strain your automobile. Here are a few items to check, courtesy of the Car Care Council. Winter means shorter days and longer nights. It's a great time to make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly, and don't forget to make sure your headlights are properly aimed. This item is often overlooked. The best way to warm up your engine in the winter is to drive gently at the start. Make sure your ice scraper and snow brush are accessible, and replenish your emergency kit. Jumper cables, a flashlight, blankets, extra clothes, bottled water, non-perishable food, and a first aid kit with any medication that may be needed. It may seem like a lot, but better safe than sorry. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove compartment. That's carcare.org. Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles, and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day. Football I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your hosts, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Again, I want to thank you for your kind words, your comments, and for tuning in every Saturday for 28 years. And I plan to stay right here and finish out whatever life that I have left, and I'm in really good shape, so that's going to be for a while. I'd love to learn about new cars, and I love the new technology. I know that a lot of you sometimes think that I get into way too technical, but the bottom line is, where else are you going to go to ask the doctor a question and then really get the answer that you don't even know what to ask? That's what we're here for. I'm a car doctor, and a good one. So I'm here for you. Having said that, I want to let you know that Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by K-Seal, and K-Seal is a one-step pour-in solution designed to stop coolant leaks and help prevent future coolant leaks in your cooling system. You can find K-Seal at fine parts stores nationwide like Napa Auto Parts. So don't just seal your cooling system, K-Seal it. We'll go back to New York. Stephen, you have an 06 Suburban. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes. I have this. The weirdest thing happen. I'd be driving down the road and I'd hit a bump and it rattles. And when that happens, ABS and brake light come on and an alarm flashes. I shut the vehicle off.
Right.
Turn it back on. The lights off. Everything's fine. Drive down the road. As soon as I hit a bump, that happens. I don't know. I did see something on YouTube where it might have said something about maybe a bad ground. Have you ever heard of that scenario before?
Sure. Anything electrical is subject to momentary disconnect or loss of connection on bumpy roads. In fact, I got to tell you, Stephen, it amazes me how well today's vehicles operate given the miles of wiring in the computers. But here's what I suggest. When you hit a bump, we know that the whole vehicle is jarred. So that means that you could have a bad connection anywhere in the vehicle. But it's easier. It would be easier for if I were to ride with you, or a shop were to ride with you, we could monitor with our scan tool. I'm not talking about a handheld $35 scanner that reads codes. I'm talking about a real scanner that costs $6,000 is what we use. So just know that, folks. There ain't no such thing as a $35 code reader that can get beyond the gatekeeper in a car's operating system. They're automatically locked out for a lot of reasons. Now, having said that, what I suggest is you go to a service shop. Don't do anything on your own, because you're chasing a rabbit. And so it's like, or you're trying to pull a needle out of a haystack. And how much would we charge to pull the needle out? Nothing. But you charge by the hour to find it. So you want to reduce the charge by the hour time. So here's what I want you to do. Try to determine, if you can, which severest bump can make this happen. And I mean, it doesn't happen on every bump, obviously. You didn't say that, but I'm just assuming it doesn't. And then when you hit a particular bump, then go to a shop, make an appointment, have the technician ride with you. Do not let that technician drive. Have a technician plug up his or her scan tool into the data port on your 06 Chevy Suburban and ride with you while you drive, and you take them over that bump and let this happen. And then what happens will be recorded in the module that the scan tool is monitoring, and that way the scan tool records that and keeps it. And then you can go back to the shop, leave your vehicle with an agreed upon limit. Let's say that I'm going to, okay, what's your initial charge? Or I'm going to charge you for 1 hour. So the shop's going to charge you 1 hour of testing time. Forget the word diagnostics. People think that if you plug in a machine, you diagnose a car, it tells you everything that's wrong. That's not the case at all. You have to test in components, just like when we're sick, we get x-rays, or MRIs, or CAT scans, or blood work, and we all go to different places for those tests. So a service shop can do all those tests, but not for one charge. So for you, the easiest thing to do, because your vehicle has a known issue, is to have this scan tool to record that issue on the fly when it happens, and then you can leave your vehicle, and that, I can assure you, that will come to life. And what do I think it is? I think it's probably a bad wheel speed sensor. That's what I think.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mr. Likis?
I think it's a bad, Bobby. I think it's a bad wheel speed sensor, Stephen.
Okay.
But
all right.
but don't go don't go to a shop and say Bobby Likis says I have a bad wheel speed sensor, because then well, who does he know? How does he know? Well, yeah. So but do go to a shop and if they say, well, maybe you got a bad wheel speed sensor, we'll test those. You say fine, but I want to make sure, and you want to make sure that they record what's there, because you have what's called an erratic behavior. And just as sure as you go to the shop, your truck ain't gonna it's gonna behave like, little Miss Manners. You got me?
I do, Mr. Likis. Thank you. Hey, I want to say something. About 20 years ago, I was ice fishing up on the Finger Lakes, Cayuga Lake. I couldn't get nothing on my little transistor radio but your program, and I listened to it, and I've been a fan ever since.
I most appreciate that. I thank you. Did you catch any fish?
Oh yes, I certainly did. Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, thanks, Stephen. And after you get on the other,
thank you.
After you get on the other side, call me back and let me know what they found. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you again. That's what it's all about, folks. Let's go to Texas. From New York, Will, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hello. Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. What can I do for you?
Well, I have a 2005 F-150. And I'm having a bit of an issue, and I'm hoping that maybe you can shine a little light on it.
Okay.
Whenever I have it in gear, I'm driving down the road, it's just fine as long as I'm applying pressure on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I let off the gas and I'm coming to a stop, it wants to die on me. Now, I can remedy that by putting it in neutral and letting it coast through my turn, and then putting it back in gear, and then give it some gas.
Yeah, right. Well, of course, when you come down from just like when you're jogging on a treadmill, you can jog at a 4-speed or a 3.5 speed, but you wouldn't hit the stop button and stop all of a sudden unless you grabbed onto the handles and lifted your feet off. So, and for obvious reasons, because you can't go from any gallop to a stop immediately. And
exactly.
So I mean, that's typical for anything physical, the inertia. So an engine that is driving down the road at normal speeds and normal load, and you let off the accelerator, it takes time to wind down. In fact, there are functions and components that are designed in the system so that it goes instead of boom, off. And I mean, unlike a bulb in your kitchen, you turn the light switch off, the light goes off, but you can see it dim from nothing goes from going forward to stop immediately,
right,
unless you hit a brick wall. Then something's still gonna move. So
exactly.
I mean, you see where I'm going. So the fact that you can make this happen makes me believe that you've got a throttle body issue, an idle air controller issue, or a PCV issue. You've got something that has an effect on the idle speed, and that's controlled by the computer. Does a check engine light come on?
It did, but it's not on anymore. And now that you mentioned the idle speed, I did take it to one of our local repair, like ABC Auto.
Right.
And he connected the deal. He tested it for me, or ran a diagnostics, because it was throwing a code. And he said, which he printed me off a list of all the things that it could be.
Great.
One of which that you listed was on there, and it was the idle speed. As a matter of fact, it said the idle speed is lower than expected. But it doesn't tell me exactly what that is or what I need to do, or if it's even a DIY type of project.
Well, you know what you could do? Yeah, that's not that may be beyond a DIY. Yeah. See, what that tells me is that the idle air controller, the idle speed controller, that bypasses. And in other words, let me make this: if you let off the accelerator, the throttle body closes, the throttle plate closes, which means the mouth is closed. But just think of it as a tracheotomy. If you had a tracheotomy, you could close your mouth, but you're still going to breathe through that trach, right?
Right.
An idle air controller is a tracheotomy, controlled. It is an air passageway that is controlled by the computer, so that depending on the load of the engine, I already had this call earlier, but depending on the load of the engine, it can adjust for loads. For instance, let's say it's working healthy, and you put the car and it's idling at 900, you put the vehicle in gear, you turn on the air conditioner, turn the headlights on. Well, the alternator loads up because the headlights are on, the engine loads up because it's in gear, and the air conditioner loads the engine because it takes 3 to 5 horsepower to turn the compressor. So you put all those on at one time, you'll watch the idle speed on a healthy car dip, and immediately the computer says, "Oh, I got you," and it'll bring the idle speed back up. Well, how does it do that? One of two ways: a tracheotomy or an idle air bypass unit, or on some cars, without you knowing, it opens the throttle body, tick, 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 a few ticks. And so it compensates. So all cars for years have had idle speed compensators, be it mechanical or electronically controlled mechanical. So that's you've got a situation. The bad news is you got a problem. The good news is you go to a service shop, they can duplicate this, and also the very fact that you had a check engine light means that shop, if he knows what he's doing, still has, even if he cleared the codes, he still has the memory in his scan tool with your VIN, because when the scan tool is connected to your car, it reads the VIN and those sorts of things, and automatically knows that it's Will's car, 05, it doesn't know the mileage, but it knows a lot of information. So that's what I would do, is I would go back and have him check the idle air control, maybe perform a throttle body cleaning, and of course check for any other sludge, because sludge and I say sludge, carbon buildup inside the intake manifold is a black lung disease, and that's commonplace on vehicles. So those are things that need to be checked, and a professional would know. And none of those are rocket science. They're just common issues that we have today. You got it?
I do. And you mentioned one other thing that I wanted to touch bases on. You were talking about the alternator. Now, see, I actually recently replaced my alternator, and it seems like this is when it started to happen.
Oh,
so I was
okay.
wondering, are the two correlated?
Okay, stop right there. I have a commercial break. I'm going to come back to you, Will, and to Victor. Folks, a little short break. This is interesting, good stuff today. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Remember, Car Clinic Network. It's all one word, .com. And go to Car Clinic Library /podcast. Download the program. Also, you can find Car Clinic on iTunes as well. Subscribe, and in the background, while you're just enjoying your breakfast or your dinner, the program will automatically load on your phone or your iPad or your Mac or your PC, whatever. And then you can tune in when you please. Okay, we're talking with Will in Texas. So, Will, before the break, we're just about finished with our conversation, except you said, wait a minute, I did replace the alternator, and you mentioned the alternator. So here's what I want you to know. You still with me?
Yes, sir. I am.
Okay. If you took a healthy automobile with nothing wrong with it, and then you took the battery out of it, or the battery went bad and you replaced it, you limped into a shop, and you put the battery back in the car, the computer has seen a drop in voltage, and it loses, sort of has a little brain fade, and it's not a trick, there's a procedure that I think that it would be beneficial to help you, and it would be a very inexpensive procedure. So remember this.
I'm all ears.
Okay, you're all ears. All right. If I, what do you do in school? You learn, right?
Right.
Well, what if you forget something? You have to relearn it, right?
Exactly.
In the vernacular of the automotive service industry, there is a normal practical procedure called idle speed or engine speed relearn. And this is a procedure that, for all intents and purposes, should follow every alternator replace or every battery replace. In fact, some cars, you better not remove the battery unless you hook up a battery maintainer to sustain all of the settings in the vehicle, not just the radio settings, but the settings for the transmission. In fact, the first 150 miles of a new car, the car is learning how you drive it, so it's best to drive aggressively a brand new car. Okay, so I want you to take your car in, and I want you to have them, after they do preliminary little testing, a relearn procedure with their scan tool, which is a professional scan tool, and that may well fix your car. You got it?
I got it.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mr. Likis.
You're welcome, Will. Bobby. Let's go to Victor, and then we are going to go to Mark, and then your calls at 888-227-2546. I will remind you, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Omnicraft. Who's Omnicraft? Well, you've heard of Motorcraft, and you've trusted Motorcraft for decades, Ford Motor Company, right? Now, try Omnicraft. Omnicraft are parts that fit non-Ford vehicles. You can learn more. They're backed by Ford, by the way, at OmnicraftAutoparts.com. Remember that, OmnicraftAutoparts.com. Victor, welcome from Washington to the center of the automotive universe, to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bobby. Now, first of all, I want to say I don't get your second on the hour here on the radio, but I heard you say that you got a letter. I want to say that God's given you a unique talent to do what you're doing, and you're a great service to the whole country.
I want to say I thank you for those kind words, and yes, he has. My wife tells me from time to time, that I have a memory like a steel trap, and I guess when it relates to and refers to automobiles, which have been my passion all my life and still is. So I'm very fortunate because I know people that are my age, 20 years younger than I, that are dead and gone, or crippled, or on crutches, or what have you, and I'm in the gym 3 days a week. I mean, it's unbelievable. And this program has certainly helped me to stay young and to stay connected. And Victor, in addition to that, I love technology. So whenever I'm holding a sheet here or a report that a Dr. Charles gave to me about the hidden cost of safety features, and it's so interesting that technology, and you have that inquisitive mind as well, my friend, and I thank you for your comments.
Yeah, well, I'm 83, so I know what it is to battle old age, and I just thank the Lord Jesus Christ that keeps me going so I can enjoy life and be a little bit useful maybe for something or other. But anyway, I was going to ask you a question, too. You talked about a variable cam.
Yes.
And now most of the cams are chain-driven, and in my mind, that seems like that would be a really something to be able to vary.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful. Imagine a sprocket, and imagine that the sprocket is steel and it's got teeth like a bicycle sprocket, right? Now imagine the sprocket has slack in it, and it can move 6 to 8 degrees of slack. So you say, well, wait a minute, it would always be on the pull side, so that slack has to be controlled. Inside that sprocket, which is about an inch thick, there's an oil passageway, and then there's a variable valve timing solenoid, like we talk about the Motorrad products that are now offering electronic controls, the Motorrad, which is a variable valve timing. That variable valve timing piston inserts into the oil chamber in the head and directs oil pressure, or not, bleeds it off or puts pressure there to the sprocket to change the position of the cam as it relates to the sprocket. So the sprocket is adjustable. It's the neatest thing in the world. You have your cake and eat it too. Why is that? Because for low RPM, you need certain camshaft and valve operations, but for higher RPM and increased power and torque, you need a different cam. Well, you can't put two cams in a car, so what the manufacturers did is ingenious. They installed variable valve timing sprockets, and some camshafts have multiple lobes that are using still hydraulic oil pressure, that a follower that opens the valve is riding on the center lobe, and then when the engine reaches an RPM that's predetermined by a program in the computer, it opens the oil passageway, electronic solenoid bathed in oil. It opens the solenoid, and oil pressure connects another pair of lobes, and the other lobes then are working the cam follower versus the single lobe. And now you got a high performance camshaft at 4,000, and you got a mom and pop stoplight to stoplight mild camshaft for city driving when you don't need you need that low RPM torque. But that benefit of having low RPM torque becomes no benefit above 4,000 RPM because you need more air. It's like, and I'll end by saying this: if you and I are jogging down the road and our mouths are taped closed, of course I'd be in a hell of a position if my mouth was closed, but if we were closed our mouth and breathe through our nose, we would reach a point, and as well would an athlete reach a point where you couldn't run because you had to open your mouth for more air. So a variable valve solenoid gives you the best of both worlds. A nose to breathe through, or a low power cam at low speed, and a mouth to breathe through that gives you the top end speed or the top end camshaft activation that that enhances power. You got it?
Well, now, you said 6 degrees, okay? If you wanted to hold it in the center, is there oil pressure on both sides, or is there a spring load that holds it like you want to have just come?
It's spring loaded, and the oil pressure just pushes it up or back. I mean, either pressure applied or no pressure, and so no pressure is standard. So no pressure means that, because you don't have any pressure when you first fire the engine. So it always it always defaults to the standard low RPM setting, because that's all you need for the up to 4,000 RPM or predetermined.
Now, does that's close tolerance bearing and putting the oil through a hole, no doubt, from the outside.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's seals involved and O-rings involved and two 10,000ths fit on shafts. And just like that's what drives transmissions. Rubber bands, rubber O-rings drive transmissions.
Are those seals long lasting, or how long? Because all the different things you have. Now I'm an old farmer, and I've done a lot of I have to fix my own stuff, and everything.
Sure.
The seals go out and everything. How long do they last, or is that, or how does that go? Is that high maintenance when you have all that stuff? Or?
No, they're not high maintenance because they have a close tolerance fit, and it's lubricated all the time, and they don't move a lot. They only move 6 degrees. Here's the detriment, and then we've got to have more calls. So you have to go on. Here's the detriment to cam activation and variable valve time solenoids. The solenoids go bad, or the seals in the solenoids where they plug into the head go bad. So you don't reseal a solenoid when you pull it out, and you have to remove the valve cover or cam cover to get the solenoid out on some vehicles, some not. So that's why it's so important to have the proper ASE trained technician that can recognize a bad VV. And in closing, if you put the wrong viscosity oil in an engine, chances are the solenoid won't work, because solenoids have tiny orifices, and they, as are all the tolerances, and you have to have clean oil as viscosity by the manufacturer. Hey, always great to hear from you, Victor. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Mark. Mark, I understand you're an affiliate.
Yeah, this is your old friend Mark Bernier. Bobby, how are you?
My gosh, folks, this a quick to business here. So in 1991, I decided I wanted to be in the radio business, and we started on 4 stations in 2 states. And at that time, there was a gentleman who was the operations manager for WNDB 1150 News Talk Radio in Daytona Beach, and he had a short tenure there, although he's still there and has his own nationally syndicated broadcast, an icon in the industry. But he said, I like you, I like your program, I'm going to put it on the air, and we've been on the air ever since. That's who this guy is. Mark, well, it's great to hear from you. What can I do for you?
It's good to talk to you, Bobby. I know it's getting to the end of your show, and forgive me if you've covered this already. Can you tell us what's going on with Toyota on a recall they've had? And I think it's a fuel pump. And I know someone who owns a Sienna, and they're concerned about some long-distance driving because it can fail. The car will just stall out. Are you familiar with this? It's not all Toyotas, but on some of them. And this is a 2019 model. So the owners are decidedly a little bit nervous about it, and it's in my family.
Okay, so because
they've indicated they're going to fix it.
Yes. So to make it easier, and you're right from a time standpoint, it's safercar.org or .gov. I think it's .gov. Safercar.gov. Go to safercar.gov. Look on the tabs for recalls. Insert the VIN number, and that's the true immediate answer to your question. That car may or may not be. Has she already or he already received a letter from Toyota?
Yes, and they've talked to them, and they said they were going to have some remedy in March, but we didn't know what it was, and we didn't know whether it's safe to drive it for a long distance.
Then, and they should have told you that, and if you didn't answer, you can call the dealer or look on the letter. The letter will tell you whether or not you can drive the car. If it were a safety-related item, like brakes going out or a fire potential, then they would give you a car to drive and keep your car. So
Right,
just
and they have not done that. So
okay, so
we'll go to that website. What is it again, please?
safercar.gov.
Okay.
We
will do that.
And there's one more, Mark. There's one more. Is the NHTSA, or National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You're familiar with that. So you can go
Yes,
to
sir.
National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA.gov or .org. .gov, I think it is. Yeah, .gov. And do the same thing. And anybody listening can put in your VIN number for recalls. And if your car is involved, and here's a reason that I don't usually get into recalls. Because if I say Toyota's got a recall, everybody that's got a Toyota says, oh, I've got a problem. So that's why it's vehicle specific. So that certificate of birth, that VIN is important. So that would take care of you, and that would give you the information that you need for the next step, okay?
Perfect, Bobby. Thank you. I knew you'd have the answer. Stay well, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate. Always great to hear from you, from all of our great audiences there in Daytona Beach and Ormond Beach and the surrounding areas. Well, let's see. I want to share with each of you just a few things about the hidden cost of safety features. And this is just for information only. And then these features are great. So don't think that just because they're expensive to repair, just remember that the loss of lives today for 100 million miles is about 1.1 or 1.01. So for every 100 million miles, there's one loss of life. Whereas at one time, 30 to 40 people would be lost. And considering that we as Americans drive more than 5 billion miles every day on America's roads, 100 million miles, one life. That's still a lot of lives. But the bottom line is these safety features. Front bumper, $500 to $1,900. To recalibrate it, $250 to $600. Headlights, taillights, $750 to $2,000, and $100 to $250 to recalibrate if you have to replace those. And then one more, thanks to Dr. Charles here, side mirror replacement. You know, you're backing out of the garage and you break the mirror. My gosh. Well, that's $300 to $500 or $1,000 with $250 to recalibrate it because they're all part of the safety. I'm out of time. What a great broadcast. Thank you for all your comments. I'll see you next week from 10 till noon. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Grundy Insurance began selling agreed value policies in 1947. These policies are set at the time they're issued, detailing the amount a policyholder will receive and an insurance company will pay in the event of total loss or theft of a vehicle. It's the safest way to protect the restoration cost and appreciating value of collector cars. Actual cash value policies and stated value policies do not establish the amount in advance. Learn more about agreed value policies at the Insurance 101 section at Grundy.com. That's Grundy.com.
O'Reilly.
Save big during O'Reilly Auto Parts Power Torque Tools DIY Day sale with great deals on socket sets, impact wrenches, and more. Right now, get a 57-piece quarter-inch drive ratchet, socket, and bit set just $24.99, plus double O rewards points, which means you'll get to your next reward even faster. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Fortress Mountain.